What's up, everybody? Back here, Red Zone Sports, this time talking my beloved and heartbreaking San Francisco 49ers. It's been not quite a week, but we've had a long 5 days or so since the Super Bowl. A lot has happened. Obviously, in Niner land, a lot of blame, a lot of regret from that Super Bowl. But I wanted to go through and talk about obviously the Niners fired Steve Wilks, their defensive coordinator, and are hot on the trail to find their replacement. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I think the 49ers should hire Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel. The first one, it's time for a shakeup, guys. I know everybody wants to listen to Kyle and kind of what he's saying. And I don't even know if Kyle believes in this, but I just think it's time. This is a franchise and a team that has relatively remained the same over the course of the Kyle Shanahan era. Their framework wise, everything in terms of their defense, running that wide 9, running kind of the cover 3 mold. I know they changed things up, but that's kind of their core base. The old Seattle defense is what they've run pretty much the entire time, especially the last 5 years since Robert Saleh was here. That's what's gotten them to this point. I think a few new faces have obviously joined, a few people have gone, but I think one of the problems with the Niners right now is they're kind of towards the top of that mountain, and very obviously they can't get over the hump, right? I think they should be finishing that first iteration of the Kyle Shanahan era right now. Where they are being in gridlock, what got them here, it's not good enough to get it done, obviously and clearly. So I think it's time to move into phase 2. I think phase 2 is not just run it back, not just try to bring back the same pieces, or, hey, you know what, this guy 3 years ago or 2 years ago when he was here, we were really good and he was great in the system, so we should bring him back. Or, hey, you know what, we should try to emulate this guy because he plays similarly to that guy. I don't think that's the answer. I think 31 other teams are trying to evolve right now. They are trying to get better. They are trying to do something different. You're going to see a lot of teams with completely different frameworks, right? And strategies as they bring in new coaches. Kyle has been very apt to stay in-house and people he trusts. I think where people are going to disagree and kind of what I'm saying, I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. I don't think he was wrong by going to Steve Wilks outside the building. I think he was the wrong hire. I think that's very clear. Did not mesh, did not gel. And it's mainly because Steve Wilks might be a great guy. Steve Wilks has not been a wildly successful defensive coordinator for the last 10 years in this league or 15 years in this league. I think they need to bring in someone who is going to shake up that building and be more of a stronger presence in that building. Somebody that this team, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, that they respect. Guys like Fred Warner, guys like Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Javarius Ward, Hufanga. They've got a lot of veterans on that team. Eric Armstead, that someone, if they step in and they don't know what they're doing, or they've just completely bombed the last couple of years, I just don't think that respect is going to be there kind of day one. And you could tell Steve Wilks by not being comfortable with this scheme, not fitting properly, who knows, behind closed doors, maybe not getting along or being talked down to by Kyle Shanahan. Dude, they notice that stuff. I think they need to go get someone like a Bill Belichick, like a Mike Vrabel, who is going to immediately come in a sense, flex a little bit, say, look, I understand defense. I've been highly successful in this league. I've had great defenses. I have been a coordinator. I have been a head coach. In Vrabel's instance, I have won rings as a player. These guys immediately will command day one respect, which leads me to point number 2. They'll command respect day one. I think when Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick obviously walks into that meeting room or that team room day one, this team will sit down and listen. They will want to absorb. They will want to learn. They will want to get after these guys, or get after it on the field for these guys. Look, both of them are highly respected and regarded around the league. They're both proven winners. You say what you want about Vrabel. He won in Tennessee despite not having a quarterback. I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago, the Niners went to Tennessee and lost. Mike Vrabel beat Kyle Shanahan with not nearly as good of a team. So the Titans have made the playoffs multiple times. We don't need to talk about Bill Belichick's accolades, obviously. And both of these guys are going to have the most talent in the room that they've had defensively in a very long time. So you give both of these coaches that kind of talent day one. I think the other thing, too, that really gets me excited, just even talking about these two potentially, is you give both of these coaches who just kind of got jet setted by the rest of the league, who deep down are seething and getting the opportunity to flip the bird to every team in the league and say, oh, you thought I was overrated. I wasn't good enough to coach your team. Well, I'm going to go win a ring. I'm going to go take an extremely talented defense with an offense that I know can put up points, and I know a coach that knows what he's doing. And they can go in and just man one side of the ball and they can go get this ring. Yeah, I think that's very appealing for both of these guys for different reasons, right? I mean, hell, Mike Vrabel said he would cut off his manhood for a ring as a coach. I know this wouldn't be as a head coach, but again, these are two highly, highly motivated and successful individuals, and you're going to give them an opportunity to say, hey, here's an insanely talented defense. Go get it done. I just think that is an opportunity that both of them, at the very least, are going to listen. I don't know if they want to take time off. I don't know if they want to necessarily be a assistant coach. But I can tell you what, both of them don't have a job right now. And both of them are not guys that are just going to sit around and be happy, kicking their feet up on the couch, watching football for a year. They do not seem like those kinds of guys to me. So I think they will both command respect day one. And I think another big piece, it was very obvious, is it started kind of leaking after Steve Wilkes got fired, is Kyle Shanahan was reportedly very involved in the defensive game planning for the Super Bowl. That's a huge problem. Whether it was a trust issue, whether it was he didn't agree with the way Steve Wilkes calls games, the way his game planning was strategically, it's a major problem. The reason is because the Niners did not score a lot in the Super Bowl. Their offense was stymied a lot of the game. It took them a trick play to score a touchdown right off the bat in this, I think, second quarter. So Kyle Shanahan needs to focus on offense. Flat out. He already has enough on his plate. We talk about game day management. He's not only calling the offense, he's managing timeouts. He's managing field position. He's doing challenges. He's looking at injury reports. He's doing a million different things. He does not need to be worried about the defense. Flat out. Now you get an opportunity to hand one side of the ball off to one of these guys who have been defensive coordinators and head coaches and have zero fear that they're going to get outmatched or they're going to get overwhelmed in a big moment or be completely like swamped and deer in headlights type thing. That's just not how these two guys operate. They're way better than that. They're qualified. I would not screw around with this hire. This gives Kyle, again, an opportunity just to say, there you go. Go have the defense. Go bring us a top 5 defense next year. Do what you need to do. That, to me, makes the entire team better, and it makes Kyle better. I think, and I'm going to have another show about this coming out later on, I think one of Kyle's biggest flaws, if not the biggest, is letting go. He needs to just take a step back. Offensively, too, start trusting his players. Start trusting his assistant coaches. He needs to be comfortable to say, I don't want to really know what's going on. Give me the cliff notes and go shut these guys down. Period. End of story. I think Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick are the two best coaching options to do that versus someone like a Brandon Staley. You think Kyle is going to let Brandon Staley come in and just say, oh, yeah, like just do whatever you want. I don't even care. Give me a break. This is a guy who just absolutely, we don't even need to get into Brandon Staley, but these two guys will demand or will be able to run autonomously day one. I think the other thing is they can kind of build what I talked about, second iteration, as far as a new, in a sense, coaching tree. It's time for the Niners to enter that new phase. You're not going to, I already hear the rumors, which I completely disagree with, that they're going to find a coach to come in and run their scheme. I could not disagree with that more. You do not go out and find people to come in and you're hiring them for what they did previously, maybe running a different scheme, maybe having a different philosophy on things, and tell them, hey, we really like you and we appreciate what you've done and we think you're successful, but we want you to come here and do it our way. Dude, what are we talking about here? And if you're going to go and find someone who is comfortable with the wide 9, cover 3, that's a really limited number of options. So you might get that person, but they might not be very good or they might not be ready yet. I just totally disagree with this strategy. Go out and get, again, a Mike Vrabel. You may only have him for 1 year, right? If everything goes smooth and they come in and they win a Super Bowl, Mike Vrabel's a head coach next year. No doubt about it. And Bill Belichick might be doing the same thing. And if Belichick's age, this might only be a 2 year thing for him. Like, that's very possible. But they can come in and kind of reset the board and the strategy from a defensive perspective and say, look, this is what we're going to run. Maybe it's a little bit more man. Maybe they're running 4-3, but they're bringing more pressure. Maybe they believe in more of a bump and run philosophy. Tampa 2. I don't know. But maybe they can come in and kind of reset the board defensively and give this team a new identity defensively and groom some of these younger coaches to say, hey, let's start a new fresh trend here. And that way, when they step away or go get another head coaching job, there is somebody there that they've brought along to say, this is the guy to take over for me. So I think that's really important, rather than, again, they've already lost 2 defensive coordinators and D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh. Like, there's just not that many people left, right? So I just don't think, like, you're again, the gas tank's starting to run empty on this. It's time to hit the reset button, refresh everything defensively. And I think that sets you up for short-term and long-term success, in my opinion. And the last point I'm going to make, and why I think these two guys are perfect for Kyle Shanahan, they're not going to come in and just get pushed around by Kyle Shanahan, right? And I think that's something that Kyle needs. I do. Obviously, I'm not behind closed doors. I don't know what those meetings are like, but my guess is, and from what everything people have said, everyone in that building knows it's Kyle Shanahan at the front of the table, and no one really disagrees with him, right? I think they need someone who's going to say, Kyle, we in our practice plan, let's say leading up to the Super Bowl, Kyle, we didn't cover over these scenarios. Can we mix that into practice on Friday? Hey, Kyle, when I was a head coach over here, we ran into this with Patrick Mahomes. I think we should do this. Hey, Kyle, I disagree with our timeout strategy here, or our challenge strategy here, or, hey, if we get down in this situation, I think we should do X, Y, and Z. They need someone who's had success in another spot, ideally as a defensive coordinator and a head coach, that both of these guys do, that can say, hey, Kyle, I know you know like 95% of everything, and you've forgotten more football than most people will ever even know. But these guys know a lot of football too, and it might be different. And that might be a nice breath of fresh air that Kyle Shanahan needs in order to kind of address maybe something that he's missing to get them over the hump, right? So I think both of these guys have the knowledge, have the experience, they command the room. And I think, again, they're not going to get pushed around. If Kyle gives them something that says, I want you to do X, they're not afraid to say, I disagree with that, and I'm not doing that. And here's why. And they can have kind of a healthy debate that all organizations and teams do at the highest levels to say, cool, let's disagree on something and come to a common ground, and let's go win some games. I think these two coaches address all those things. And for those reasons, that's why I would hire one of these two coaches, if at all possible. And I don't really care about the price tag. 49ers are making more money than, hell, most Fortune 100, companies, I believe. So I just saw in the last 2 weeks, they've set new records for jersey sales and ticket prices and everything else. Jed's raising ticket prices. These guys have all the money in the world. I don't care. Go pay Vrabel or Bill Belichick $15 million next year. Doesn't matter to me. It's not my money, and money is just a number to these guys. It's just a number on the bottom line. It does not hit the cap. Find a way to get it done, guys. That's all I got. I'm going to be bringing back me, Jim, Joe, some offseason takes. This one starting with my beloved Niners, soul crushing, but we wiped the slate clean. Go hire Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel as defensive coordinator.